That was powerful. Thank you for arranging for that. And we're also very thankful for Pastor Mel's message he had last Sabbath, that his letter to the nation. And so to take off of what this has spoken about, that it will be by their love that the world will know we are Jesus' followers, not by our law. And so part of what we're going to do today is have a conversation about one way that our love can be demonstrated and the compassion of Jesus can spread like it should. So we're going to start with a little skit. Follow along, and you might find yourself in this story. Oh, here comes Steve. I hear his mother died recently.
Oh, I wonder if she knows. I mean, I haven't told hardly anybody, particularly here at church.
I wish I had taken a different way because I never know what to say.
She won't even look at me. I bet you she knows.
Maybe it's not too late to turn around? No, okay, I got to do this. Okay. Oh, hi, Steve. I'm really sorry about your mom. How are you doing?
Oh, hi, Karen. It's been pretty hard. You know, Mom and I were really close, and it's been really tough for Dad.
I know just how you feel, Steve. My great aunt died a couple years ago, and we were very close too. You know, call me if you need anything. I'm here for you.
Well, you know, I really could use some help.
Oh, we're praying for you too, Steve. I know that you're going to get better in time. You know, time heals all wounds. I got to go now. Bye, Steve.
Oh.
Well, that wasn't so bad. Maybe I consoled him a little bit.
Well, I guess she means well, but I needed some help right now. Needed someone to watch Dad while I worked on Mom's funeral plans. I don't think I'll be calling her. And how can she know how I feel? I mean, I just feel so sad right now. I don't think she has a clue. And if she's sorry, what does that make me? Maybe she's just sorry that she bumped into me. I think I'll call Sue at work and see if maybe she can watch Dad.
Do any of you identify with either Steve or myself? Or maybe both? You've been in that awkward situation where the timing's wrong, you're not ready for it, you've not prepared for it, and you just don't know what to say or do, or you're just awkward coming into a group of people because you're carrying a heavy heart. You identify with either of those scenarios, either of these characters in this little skit? Well, we've got a few more stories that maybe if this one didn't grab you, maybe one of these stories might. So this is a true story that happened right here with people we know and love right here. Shortly after the Auburn Care Team was established, Sandy's mother, Marilyn, died tragically. And the Auburn Care Team was prepared enough so that we could help the Cranes move through those difficult and painful first days and weeks, and particularly as they planned and prepared for Marilyn's memorial service. That was a good thing that church members did for one another.
Just this last week, we were on a Zoom call with leaders that are a part of other grief care teams all over the United States. And one of them said, you know, we just went to go visit some friends that we hadn't seen in 50 years. And just before we got there, they had to put their beloved pet dog down who had been very, very sick. And they said, we were so glad we knew what to say and what not to say and how to really enter into their grief experience because it was really hard for them. As we all know, our pets are just our children in fur coats, aren't they?
Yeah. But on the other hand, I met a couple of gentlemen in Florida one time. We were there at a conference, and we were handing out cards. Let's see if I've got one of them here. On the front of the card, it says, "What not to say to the grieving." And I said, do you want to know what not to say to the grieving? As they were walking by, and boom, both of them stopped cold. And they said, yeah, give me that card. And I said, tell me more. Why are you so interested? And they said, well, we work in the tech department of the Hospital right here in Florida, in Orlando. And a week ago, our colleague returned to work after the death of his wife. And we could see him at the end of the work area behind his glass wall, but none of us knew what to say or do. So yeah, we really need what is on that card.
Recently, well, just a few years ago, we knew of another situation personally of a widow. Her husband had tragically died in a drowning accident. But sadly, after the service, and even during that time, there was very little support. There was no pastoral support. Nobody called or texted to see how she was doing. The best they got was some people came and left some casseroles at the door and left food that the kids couldn't even eat. She had 3 lovely young girls that were just hurting during that time, and they needed a lot more support, sadly, than what they were able to get.
And that's a hard story to hear. But in the line of work that Steve and I do and travel as grief educators, we hear that story way too frequently. On the other hand, I found myself at that awkward moment in Costco shopping one day, pushing my cart, and I came across 2 women, lovely dressed, and they had one of the flatbeds. Well, we all know that a flatbed cart is serious Costco shopping. And so on that flatbed cart, they had flowers, and they had cases of wine, and they had stacks of prepared food that looked like it was ready for a wedding. And so me and my outgoing nature, I paused my cart and I look down and I look at them. I go, wow, looks like you're planning a great party, aren't you? They were very quiet. One looked down, then she looked at me. She goes, no, my husband died recently, and these are what we're serving for his reception, for his funeral. I was so caught off guard. I fumbled around my purse for my business card, and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm a grief coach. Call me if you need me. And I walked away. Here's what I would do differently. I would have paused. I would have taken a breath. I would have said, tell me your husband's name. And what special are you going to do for him at his service? And let the ladies talk. But I missed that golden opportunity.
Yeah. Many years ago, we were sitting in church, and the pastor had just shared with the church that our son had fallen out of remission from his chemotherapy for his leukemia. And we were sitting in the very back that Sabbath, the 4 of us, our son Dawson, our daughter Joanna, little tiny ones at that point. And after church came over, there was a line of people that were coming out, and we heard a lot of things that were said to us as we came out. There was just people were expressing their love and concern, and we love that. But I don't remember anything that anybody said. But I remember Pat. I saw Pat. Pat's was not a warm fuzzy, but she was looking at me, and I could see her coming down the aisle, and her eyes were glistening. And it's like she knew something that I didn't know yet. And we were standing there, and she came up and just gave me a mama's hug. And she was old enough to be my mom. And just held me there for a minute, and then left. And I never forgot that hug. I don't remember anything anybody else said, but I do remember that hug. So those of you that get hugs from me, that's where it started. But interestingly enough, many years later, about 35 years later, I bumped into her at another church. And recently, her husband had sadly just died of cancer. And I went up to her and said, oh, Pat, I'd heard about your husband, and I'm sad that this is happening to you right now. And she goes, this is hard. She goes, do you remember that hug I gave you many, many years ago? I said, I have never forgotten. She goes, can I have it back? And I said, oh, you bet, you bet. It is hard being alone, and we all need some touch, don't we? Appropriate touch when it comes to our losses, don't we?
Yeah. Another story that was told to us was of a church family who embraced a different widow with her remaining children. And they decided that they would not leave one Sabbath absent of an invitation to this family. So for an entire year, this grieving family, this mother, widow, and her children, bereft of their father, were invited every Sabbath to one person or another's home to spend the Sabbath day with them for the afternoon, to have a meal. They didn't have to say yes, but for the times that they did, oh, how meaningful it was. And they extended that up to 12 months. It made such a big impact that this woman, now an adult, told us her story. So when we hear these stories, what story do you want to be in? What story do you want to leave with somebody who is hurting? And what stories represent the compassion of God towards broken-hearted people? Just ponder that a moment. I want to talk first of all to those of us who come to church with a deep pain. It might not be because someone has died. It might be because there is an estrangement in the family. It might be because a job has been lost, or young adults are going away to college, or it might be a reduction of health and capacities. You know, we all bring into this church building what we call our little wheelbarrows full of grief and loss, stacked up with logs of loss from years gone by and currently, and we push them around with us wherever we go. And I began to think about, why is it that it sometimes doesn't feel like this place welcomes my pain or my lament? And so here's a few ideas that are mine that prevent me from sharing. Sometimes we might feel that our pain should be kept private. Some of us are more introverts, and we wouldn't think of telling anybody anyway. And even if we're more extroverted, we might just feel like, I need to keep this pain private.
Another thing that can happen, and it's an oxymoronic thing, that the grievers many times end up comforting the people who are trying to be the comforter. And we'll share that later on. When we say the word, I'm so sorry, who's that about? And so the person says, oh, no, it's okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm okay. And we'll talk a little bit about how to say that maybe a little differently later on. But often we feel that if I share my grief story, whatever it is, that I'll bring you down. And that's kind of a Debbie Downer on Sabbath, and we don't want to do that, because Sabbath should be a happy day. But interestingly enough, if you do study your Gospels, Jesus did most of his healings on what day?
Sabbath.
On the Sabbath. So this should be a great place of healing as well as joy, don't you think?
And that happy day syndrome is lovely. I love to walk into the church foyers and have people extend their hands and wish me a happy Sabbath. But if my heart is crushed, I'm not so sure that I'm ready to jump into the happy Sabbath. And so that might mean I might either avoid the entrance of the church, or I might not come to church at all.
Sometimes there's no physical space in church to grieve. Now, obviously we're talking, square footage here, is that what and that could be a problem sometimes. The foyer may not be the place, you see, to tell somebody your story. But there's always a quiet place here in the sanctuary, sometimes in the youth room. But there should be a place where we can pull somebody aside and just hear their story. If a person's had a loss, they so want to tell you their story, if you'll just listen. And that's really an important thing. But the other thing is there may not be enough emotional and spiritual space to share our story at church sometimes. because we're not sure if who we're going to share with really wants to hear what I'd like to share. And we'll talk a little more about that in a moment.
So kind of the bottom line for many of us is that I really don't know why I don't feel safe or welcome or open to share a hard or heavy thing in my life. I don't know why. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And when we say this, we are going from our own personal experiences. This church, by and large, is an amazingly good church to have a loss or death in, isn't it? You get a lot of support here. And so we're sharing, how do we even expand that even more? And that's why the title of our talk today is When We Know Better, We Can Do Even Better. We're starting from ground zero. We're talking from a position already of strength in this church body. But I believe that we can do even better. As we go and travel a lot around churches all over the United States and do our seminars on Sabbath morning, we come back and go, we're so glad we go to the Auburn church.
Yes, we are.
So that's a real blessing for us. But we also look back and we say, is there some things that we can tweak a little bit? There's some things that how can we do better? How can we even expand our serve so that we are a place where people truly feel welcome and heard when they come each Sabbath?
So I'm on that point, Steve. I just want to add that we have friendship groups, and in our friendship groups, I'm sure that you've shared the deep parts of your heart and life. But there are some people we must recognize that might sit outside of the edges of a friendship group. And some of us could pay attention a little bit better, just to befriend them, just to come alongside. As an example, I came alongside one of our church members, and I'm not going to say who it was because she hasn't given me permission, but I had no idea what she had just experienced that week. And when she told me that her father had just died, it was only because I went kind of outside of the circle and sat with her for a little bit that morning. Could I find that out? I don't think she would have come to me to tell me that.
Yeah.
So it's so important that we recognize that let's just get close to each other. And so can we talk a little bit about the factors that kind of prevent us from getting close to each other?
Well, I think for those of us that here's what we find, this is why we do the work that we do, is that we find people's hearts are in the right place. But we're not sure, we've got the horsepower, we just don't have the transmission yet to get it out and to move and to know how to come alongside a hurting person. It takes some intentionality, doesn't it? It takes a little bit of risk on our part as a supportive person. But many times it's because we're uncomfortable with pain.
Just pain in general.
Yeah, just pain in general. It doesn't have to be the pain from a death. Again, when we're talking about grief here and supporting people in grief, it could be over 50 different things that we've identified that a person could grieve over. So that's why we say that almost every person that walks through these doors every Sabbath morning, as Karen mentioned, has a grief load that they're carrying. And if we were to sit and ask them and have a conversation, you would find that every person in this room has something that they're grieving over. Conversely, they have a lot of things they're very thankful for. And we don't want to spend we think, well, I don't want to spend all my time talking about that, but there is a time and a place for it. And we figure if this isn't the time or the place, where else do we do that, you see? Mm-hmm. Where else does that happen? So we're many times uncomfortable with pain and grief, and so to avoid it just seems the easiest way out. And how do I know that? Because I've done it so many times myself.
Yeah. And it's nothing to be ashamed of if we just say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do, because who taught us how to be supportive comforters? Did you take Support the Grieving 101? Most of us haven't, right? And so if we don't know what to say, we don't know what to do, that's okay. But it is a factor that keeps us from being able to step close to someone in their pain.
Here's a kind of a myth thing that we deal with a lot. And we've heard that time heals all wounds. You heard Karen in the skit say, oh, it's okay, Steve. Remember, time will heal. Time doesn't heal anything, does it? All it does is put some space between the event and where we are today. But unless we do something within that time, nothing happens. We use the illustration of a refrigerator or a garage that's all messy for us guys, and refrigerators for you homekeepers. If you have bad food in the back of the garage, back of the end, you probably have there too, in the back of the refrigerator, no amount of time is going to make that moldy food any better, will it?
That stink will still come out when you open the door.
And those of us that have garages with lots of projects, we know what that's like. No amount of time is going to clean
Straighten
it up. We have to be intentional. So it's important for us to be able to realize that time doesn't heal, but we need to be able to communicate that God can do the healing.
So sometimes we think that if we just have a conversation about trivial matters, that'll lighten up the environment and everybody will be fine, and that will work. And maybe by just not acknowledging the elephant in the room, that's the better way to do. Mm-hmm. But I had a friend whose son took his life, and she, at age 19, and she had younger children that were still going to the elementary and high school nearby. And when she would take her children to the school in the morning and drop them off and gather around in a circle of her peers, of the other moms, no one ever mentioned her grief, asked how she was doing. She stood in this circle of trivial conversation and she said, I don't belong here. This is not where my space is. And so stopped associating on the mornings that she'd drop her kids off from school.
Along that line too, if I can just accentuate with that a little bit, Karen, that often we feel we're watching people who have experienced a death loss, particularly a death loss, and we're watching when they come back to church. Did they smile? Did they appear kind of okay? They must be okay. They're okay. Good, good, good. And we think, that's it. Has anybody ever thought that? I have. Okay, and it's easy to think that, but we don't realize is that the grief process is just beginning. I work with several widowers right now in our practice, and one man just like 2 months after his wife had died, said, I should be better by now, right? And we sometimes think that the deal is that when we have grieving people in the church, we feel badly for them for a while, but time moves on. And then we kind of forget, we get busy with life, and then we don't feel the pain of their loss anymore, because it wasn't our loss, was it? But their loss many times is just beginning. And this was really brought home to me. I had a friend whose wife died tragically of a stroke over in the Sacramento area. And I would call him every Friday night. How are we doing? How are we doing? That was in April. And every time he goes, I miss my wife so much. I miss my wife. I miss my wife. But that was about, and he would talk about how they used to go to work together, and he'd pick her up, and every Friday it was, they had their weekends together because they both did home health care. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 8 months later, I call him up. And my friend wept on the phone for over 20 minutes. He said, I can't believe that she's gone. And so you see how it's an ongoing process. There's no set timeline for those in this room. We know many of you in here know exactly what I'm talking about because you're living it. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. And so there's no timeline for grief. We don't say, well, you should be here. Oh yeah, people who've lost this sort of loss, you should be okay by. That's them, but that's not us. I had a lady one day come to me at a funeral, and she said, oh, Steve, losing a child like we have, okay? She goes, oh, losing a child would be the worst thing. That would be the worst thing. I said, no. I said, and her husband had died of cancer, the woman who was telling me this. I said, no, you losing your husband, that was the worst thing for you. Me losing my son was the worst thing for me. So we don't compare, you see. It's not a matter of one person's loss is greater than. They're different, I'll give you that. But I can't say that I know how, if another person in here were to lose a child, I can't say, I really don't know how you feel. because it wasn't my child that died. But I can, as we want as a church family, acknowledge that pain.
So we came with a tool, and if Tyler and David would come forward, we'd love to give everyone that would like one the card that says what not to say to the grieving. And guess what? On the back it says what to say to them. So we don't want to leave you. Go ahead, start passing them out. Thanks, guys.
Just lift your hand if you want one. We will
They're going to get them
one.
down to you just as quickly as possible. And while you're waiting for it to come, the top one says, it's not best to say, I'm so sorry. But how many of us say that right off from the bat? I'm so sorry. We say it. All of us say it, right? I'm so sorry. And like Steve suggested, who is the subject in that statement? I, me, myself, right? So it's all about me. And here's one of the principles that really helps us be able to step into the circle where someone is hurting. It's not about me. And if we can tell ourselves that, if I had told myself that at Costco, this is not about me, this is about them, I would have had a much different response. You see, this is not about me, it is all about them. But I want to give you a solution to the I'm so sorry that flies out of your mouth.
Tyler, there's more over here that you can get. Good. Thanks.
The solution to the I'm so sorry that flies out of our mouth is just to complete and acknowledge what it is that we feel sad for them. Not in a pity, but it just makes the statement, I'm so sorry your cat was lost. I'm so sorry you lost your job this week. I'm so sorry you got into that car accident. You see, I've just finished it, and now who have I made it about? About them. I've acknowledged what it is that they're experiencing.
Clive, did you get another one that you gave away over to Lisa?
Yeah. Anybody needs one,
Right
just
there.
raise your hand. We've
One more
got
right
plenty.
There you go.
Right there.
All right, thanks.
There we go. So that's a real easy shift for us to do a better. When we know better, we can do better. Steve, what about the one that says, is there anything I can do? How many of us said that? Or call me if you need me.
Ooh, I was just watching that the other day online. A gentleman was saying, please don't say that. Why should we not say, if there's anything I can do, please let me know? Don't we mean that? Do we mean that when we say that?
Yeah, we mean it.
Of course we do. But that's a blank check the griever ain't ever going to cash, isn't it? How many have been, maybe there's a few of you who have actually been taken up on that offer. We find very few people where they've ever been taken up on that offer. Because again, it's an easy thing to say because we know there's very likelihood I'm not going to be inconvenienced in any way.
Well, even if we mean it, though.
And I'm saying, but if we mean it, we still don't know, we're kind of confident still, though, that it may not come back to us. And if it does, we're willing to help. We're willing to help. But again, those that have lost or had a major loss, a major setback, and again, we worked for months with people up in Paradise after the fire. People's brains were not working well in those days. Mira would know about that. The Lockwood family would know that. How was your brains working in those days? Yeah, they lost
Not at all.
They lost their home in that fire.
Yeah.
And so for people to say, well, hey, Lockwoods, if there's anything we can do, just let us know. That's saying, like, how high is up? Or can you tell me what, the number of what the number blue is? Those are unanswerable questions. So we suggest that we come to people with solutions and not with, and it puts the onus on the griever, doesn't it? If you know of anything that I can do, let me know. So now you've got to think, what can I do? Before I go any farther, honey, you've got to tell the story, though, of the lady that we had from Mount Shasta.
Oh, yeah. So a friend of a grieving widow caught on to this. This was happening. Her grieving widow friend kept getting these calls. Let me know if there's anything I can do. And so she went over to her widow's house and said, maybe there are things people can do. Let's go through your home and see what it is, because in the state of grief and loss, grief brain is taken over, and you're not thinking clearly, and so you can't go, oh yes, I need this, this, and this done. So they walk through the house, and She could have the cat litter box emptied. The garage would be nice if that was swept. There were weeds out in the back flower bed that needed to be pulled. And some extra vacuuming and dusting would be really beneficial. And so they made a little list of all these things that someone could do if they made that offer. And so they put them on little pieces of paper. The widow had this charming cut glass bowl. They put the little pieces of paper in the charming cut glass bowl. And then when she got the next phone call, "Oh, is there anything I can do?" The widow said, "As a matter of fact, there is." And she pulled something out of the bowl and read it to the caller. And so that kind of solved that problem. I thought it was a pretty clever idea of that friend who came close to that widow.
So if you look at your bulletin, month after week after year, you'll see a little thing in the bottom right-hand corner under Community Outreach, and you'll see a thing that says Auburn Care Team Act, okay? And that's us. That's the team that we're a part of. And there's these teams all over the United States. Wherever we go, we like to start a grief care team.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
So what we'd like to do is let you know a little bit about what the Auburn Care Team is. We're not a program of the Auburn Seventh-day Adventist Church. We're not. It's not a program. Because programs come and go, right? Stop smoking, weight control, stress control. You meet for 6 weeks and it's over, right? That doesn't happen in the world of loss and grief, does it? People will continue to die in our churches whether we're ready for them to or not. Am I right? Us having a team or not having a team doesn't change anybody's mortality in this room, or any other church for that matter. But the church is ready. We often say it's like CPR. If you have a coronary infarction, you'd like to know that people know how to do compressions or run out and at least grab the AED machine, right? That would be great because it would save your life in most cases. Or if you saw somebody falling down, you would glad that you knew how to use it, right? You knew how to do the compressions or where the machine was that you could do to restart the heart. Grief care is kind of the same way. So in our case, our group works with people that are sick, people that have been hospitalized, people that are facing probably an imminent death. We visit with them. Also, we have done yard cleaning and help after Virgil Starr died. Dave Van Zandt and a group of the youth went out to his place, and they did an amazing job of tackling Virgil's place that had been neglected because Virgil had been sick for so long. He just couldn't attend to his yard. And these guys just did an amazing job of going in there and getting it cleaned up, weed whacked and things mowed and taken care of. And conversely, the ladies went back and went inside and tackled the inside. It was a huge thing to do. His daughter was very grateful. Our youth were able to get cards written to Virgil's grandson. Now, do they attend church today here? I don't think they're here, are they? But that's not the point, you see. We help whether people come here or not. So we also do gift baskets, cards, and letters, and texts and things that will keep people encouraged. There's a few of us here today I'd like to introduce you to, though. Some of the people that are part of the people that are here that are part of our team, and I'll just tell you who they are as I've got them here. Kim Maciel is not here today, but she is the brains of our group. She runs a little computer every time we meet monthly at our home, and she keeps track of all the people in this church that we are supporting through their grief. And without her, we're kind of rudderless. Some people, it just keeps us focused on what we need to be doing. Sharon Weir, who's here. Hi, Sharon, raise your hand. Sharon's our senior visitor. She does a great job of reaching out with a phone call or she goes, who needs to be visited? And that's what Sharon gets to do. And then Kendall Porco, who is not here today, but her other half is here. Mark's in the back running the AV. Kendall is so good at being there to supply a meal. And it segues a little bit with our meal train. At times, I think, doesn't it, Lisa? And but Kendall is just available to cook and make stuff sweet and savory that people really, really like. Another person on our team is Nikki Wetchy. There's Nikki. Nikki, just raise your hand. Nikki is kind of our resident historian. Jen Kaler used to be part of our team until she had to go down to Sacramento. So the mantle was passed over to Nikki. And it's so good to have someone who's been going to church here for a very long time that knows history of people. Because we're helping people sometimes that have not been to church for quite a while. And they go, oh, I know who that person is. And we need to be able to support them, even if they're not attending church right now currently. That's not the point. They're people in need. And so we're thankful for Nikki's help. I think, Patty, you would say that Nikki was a little bit of a help during the time that you lost Roy? Exactly, exactly. And that's an example of someone, one of our team members being, now obviously they're friends and that helps too, but Nikki would have done that even if she didn't even know Patty, okay? Sandy Crane, where's Sandy? I think she's in the back there somewhere, or she was in the back. There she is, in the very, very back. Sandy's my hero. We brag on Sandy too all over the place because Sandy, and see in the grief care team, we only have 1 or 2 responsibilities. It's really great. And so Sandy's job is to make the grief care baskets. Has anybody here gotten a grief care basket from Sandy? Oh yeah, quite a few of you. It felt good, didn't it? About 3 weeks after my brother died in 2023, Sandy met me at the door and she goes, hey Steve, come out the car. And I go out there and there's this basket for Steve. And she said, and we didn't ask her to do it, she just did it. And it was a guy basket. There was, it had chips and salsa and peanuts and guy stuff in it. There was no bath bombs in it, guys, or, smell goods or that kind of thing that normally goes for the ladies, right? Sandy is a genius at knowing the people who are getting the baskets. Would you agree, those of you that have gotten her baskets? She knows the people. She doesn't just randomly put stuff in there and go, here. She knows who they are, knows a little bit about them and things that they might like. And then conversely, we have, at this time, we also have Dave Ermshar, who is related to Sharon. And Dave's our newest member, so he is so new he hasn't had a chance to even attend a meeting. He's so new. And then Charlie Nugent, who used to attend church here, is part of our team, though. And she does our card writing. The card writer is a very valuable part of our team. And I know that Joanne did it for us for the longest time, and that was so great. We had neighbors just 4 doors down from where we live. The wife is a spiritual person. The husband attends probably a few times a year, maybe at Easter and Christmas, that kind of thing. Well, in 1 week, the daughter and a brother of this couple died in 1 week. And we know these people pretty well. We've become friends with them. And so we asked our grief care team, can we do something for Gary and Sherry? And again, Sandy put together this beautiful gift basket that was for both of them. And then I remember peeking at the note, and Joanne had written this in there, and started out with, brothers are so special, aren't they? And they are. And that was, and I felt that for myself even, but here was for Gary's brother. Now, we also got our book we'll talk about here in a minute. But the point is that the grief care team and the ministry of this church exceeds these walls, doesn't it? And so that's also part of our team. And then Chelsea Minzik is part of our other newest member. And of course, myself and Karen. And then Jeff is kind of our Pearson is kind of our member at large. And he's always available to call or go visit somebody if he's asked to do it. And it's always nice to have that backup person to do so.
And Eric Fonslow is also volunteered as that
and
backup
Eric is
as
one
well.
of our
Thank you,
backup.
Eric.
And Eric has a way of knowing who needs something. He's just got that intuitiveness, and I appreciate that about you, Eric.
So when I look to the Word of God, I want to find the place that gives me the roots, the grounding, the reason why we have the Auburn Care Team, and why we're talking to you about it today, because it's not just about these 10 or 12 people that are meeting on a monthly basis. It's about every one of us.
Yeah.
If we claim to be followers of Jesus, then we might want to consider his mission statement. And when I recall the most profound place that he declared his mission statement was when he stood up in this home church, as we are in our home church, And he rolled open the scroll of Isaiah, and he came to the portion of Isaiah that we call Isaiah chapter 61. And I'm going to read verses 1 to 3. And this is what he read to declare what his mission is. And this is how he begins. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. And I want to suggest, pause just a moment. People who are going through difficult and rough times, people who are feeling overwhelmed, pained to the core, would we consider them poor in spirit? We're not talking about poverty from wealth. We're talking about poor in spirit. And that could be the person behind the cash register. That could be the mechanic who works on our car. That could be the nurse that's attending to us. That could be our client or our patient. It could be anybody. His mission was to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners. As a grief coach, I encounter people over and over again who are living in the darkest shadows of their journey of life right then. They are living often imprisoned in their own bitterness or resentment or anger or fear or worry because they can't figure out how they're going to get through this dark time. You see, Jesus stood up and said, I've arrived here. I've showed up. I have come to this world of hurt, and I'm here with you in it. Then he says, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion. Do you notice a disconnect? Do those statements all jive in your understanding? A day of vengeance of our God and comforting all who mourn in Zion? Are you curious about that? Do you wonder about that? I don't see any heads nodding either way. Maybe you've got this all figured out. But I didn't for the longest time, and I was so curious to know why in the middle of this healing message, in this comforting message, does Isaiah say that Jesus is coming to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor? Well, I like a proclamation of the Lord's favor. Are you all for that? Yeah, I'm happy for that. But then the very next statement says, and the day of vengeance of our God. And I had to really, well, the one thing that helps me, I don't know if it's reading scripture, if this little thing helps you, but I've always been told that if you don't get it, just keep reading. So I just kept reading in Isaiah 63. If you want to turn in your Bibles, I don't have it on the screen, so don't worry about it. But Isaiah 63, if you want to turn in your Bibles, starting verse 1. Who is this coming from Edom and Basra with his garments stained in crimson? Who is this robed in splendor, striding forward in the greatness of his strength? It is I, speaking in righteousness, mighty to save. Who can make that declaration? But God, right? Why are your garments red like those treading the winepress? I have trodden the winepress alone. From the nations no one was with me. I trampled them in my anger and trod them down in my wrath. Their blood spattered my garments, and I stained my clothing. It was for me the day of vengeance. A clue? The year for me to redeem had come. Isaiah is saying that this is God's vengeance, the vengeance of our God. Now, does that mean he's vengeful against the very people he is coming to comfort and to heal and to bring out of prison and out of darkness? Can't possibly be that. So this is an experience that is for God. Just like God says, salvation is the Lord's. He initiates salvation. He initiates redemption. Vengeance is mine, he says. Now, vengeance belongs, it's his experience. It's not mine. And just as his love is so exponentially, completely different than my love, is it possible that the day of vengeance that has to do with this bloody scene that we read in Isaiah 63 is the day Jesus spread out his arms? And between he and the Father and the Holy Spirit, they experienced eternal separation, which was meant for us. You see, Jesus didn't die for our first death. Everybody gets resurrected from that. But there will people that will die forever, that will never live again. And is it that day of vengeance that they experienced on our behalf? So the very next thing that he could say, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them, meaning all of us who have had losses and grief and sorrow and pain and suffering on this planet, all of them, I will bestow a crown of beauty instead of ashes. What a miraculous power of restoration for the pain we're experiencing. I will give the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of the spirit of despair. They will be called mighty oaks, a planting of the Lord for the glory of his splendor. You see, the redemption that God has for us, the hope that he has for us, is not just heaven and eternity, but it's the hope of healing of our broken hearts right now. That we could live as sentinels, as a grove of mighty trees. So how does that take shape in a practical sense, Steve?
Well, there's so many different ways that we can be Jesus in skin to each other and the people that we know at work and the people we know in our neighborhoods. Again, COVID taught us that the church is not these walls. I can't say 4 walls here, but church is more than that. And so there's some things that we can do that are very, that can be supportive. Karen, do you want to talk a little bit about our book just for a moment? And it sounds like, like a self-advertisement, but it's a good book.
It just happens to have our name on it, but that's not why we're saying this. What we would like to have you just think for a moment. Do you have someone in your neighborhood that you know is walking the path of loss or grief or trauma or difficulty? Do you know someone at work, in your workplace? Do you have extended family members? Well, our church has a supply of Comfort for the Day books. And if this is something that you would like to be able to pass on to someone else, because it really does comfort, it is based on Scripture and how it applies to our grief experience. You're welcome to take a look at this one after church if you want to get better acquainted with it. But all you have to do is talk to Steve or myself, talk to the pastor, talk to anybody on the grief care team, and they can give you one of these for you to give to someone in your circle of influence.
And there's a place in the front for you to write their name, and it's from you. And I'm thinking back again to the basket that we gave to our neighbors down the street that are not part of our fellowship here currently, but in the front, in the front of each one of the books they got, it was from the Auburn Seventh-day Adventist care team. And that was a nice thing to have, to be able to give them. Where that'll all end up, I don't know. That's not our job. But our job is to keep reaching out. There are some things that we can do, though. Maybe a person needs help with driving.
Why would someone need help with driving? Yes, maybe to make 2 appointments to the hospital or whatever that might be. There might be assistance for driving for a variety of things. If we're in the immediate state of loss from a death, We have what's called grief brain, and it doesn't operate real well. And it's not really safe to get behind the wheel of a car. So if you're a close family member, if you're a friend, if you're in that circle of friendship, please offer to drive. Just say, I can take you there. Let me take you to the funeral home. Let me take you to the cemetery.
We found after our son died, we took all the flowers that had been given to us and we took it up to the convalescent home up there in Grass Valley, and we got lost in Grass Valley.
So it is a true thing. The brain doesn't work
He
well.
said we hardly knew how to get home, and that was just a few days afterwards. So it happens. So it's not a safe time. I'm working with a gentleman right now who's a pilot, and his wife has just recently died. He said, I just need to go up and do some flying. I go, whoa.
So we could tell stories about
Wait a
everyone.
minute, but those are things that we need to be careful about. There's those leaders in here that are good with finances, offering to help with someone's finances if they choose to let us do so.
Yeah. Yard work, yard sales. Nikki helped me with my mom's yard sale after her death. House cleaning, sorting, packing, any kind of assistance with child care. Visiting or sending cards. Cards in the mail. What a novel idea. You know, stamps still work on an envelope. I know they've gotten crazy expensive, but that is such a special thing to open up a letter, a card.
When you get a card or a letter, it means so much more. And we've got just a few minutes here. We've got to close this up. But how easy is it when someone says, please pray for, and you'll see this emoji right on Facebook. Does this look familiar? Now, it's not that the people that are sending this don't mean it, but wouldn't it be nicer to maybe, you don't have to do it right there, you can go message, and actually just a quick little prayer for them. Say it right then. Or say... Write the prayer in the text. Here's my thing, is so often I go, oh, thank you so much, Fred, for sharing with me. I'm going to pray for you. And I don't. I forget. Yeah. Okay, just a little confession here. We mean well. So usually it's best to strike while the fire is hot. If it's in a place, just pray with them right there in the store or in the car or in the yard. Just do it. It's such a powerful thing to pray for someone and with someone. So
I just want to encourage us. Pick something that you see up on the screen that says, that's the thing I could do. Do the thing that is comfortable for you to do. Don't do the thing that you don't find comfortable to do, because it won't come across natural and loving. So find the thing up there that says, that's my thing. That's the thing I will do when someone is going through a difficult time.
And here's the thing to remember. Even though we have about 10 or 12 members on our grief care team, what is really our grief care team? All of us. Okay. We're simply the brokers for grief care in the church, as it were. But everyone in this room, and all those that are not here, are all part of our grief care team. That's because, again, this is not a program. This is something we want to naturally have happen, so that, because you in this audience many times will know people much better than we do and are much more natural to reach out to them. And that's really important, I think.
Yeah, and when you do, please just let us know so we can do our part. We would love that.
I would, and on visiting, it says about visiting here, rather than just stopping by in this day and age, sometimes it's courtesy to give it just a quick call and just get permission, and then make your visit very brief.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's so many things we could talk about, and so we'd like to be able to just offer, when and if you ever have a question, should I say or do this or that, come and ask Steve or myself. We'd be happy to listen to your idea, and if you're open to, like, well, if you just do this, that might be the thing that would be really the better thing.
And the major thing we still want to say is that you are our censors out here in terms of what the needs are in our church community. The pastor, Scott, ourselves, the grief care team, we're not psychic, okay? We don't know when someone sometimes is in the hospital or is at home with a bad diagnosis or whatever. Please let us know. That's not gossiping or anything. That's just saying, here, we know that so-and-so's this. And I tell you, Pastor Mel would rather get 20 phone calls or texts saying, hey, did you know that, than to be the last one to find out. And sometimes that happens with pastors. So it'd be very supportive for the church office and for the grief care team if you were to simply let us know, so that we can just simply continue to execute the ministry that God's gifted us to do, and we can extend that out to you too.
Well, do you think we can make any improvement on that skit we did to start with? Well, let's see if we can do some improvement here on this skit. And you notice what changes. Oh, there's Steve. He must be really hurting today since his mother died.
I wonder if she knows about Mom. It just, but it just takes so much energy to talk to people right now.
I'm really glad I came this way because I want to let him know how much I care. Hi, Steve. I'm really sad to hear that your mother died.
Oh, thanks, Karen. Your son died. You must know exactly how I feel.
Well, I know about my grief, but your grief is yours, and it's different. So what are you feeling right now?
I feel numb, I feel overwhelmed. Working on the memorial plans gives me something to do, but I'm mostly concerned about Dad and his grief.
I can understand that. I wonder, would it help if I spent some time with your dad tonight so he doesn't have to be alone right now?
Oh, that'd be great.
I do have an hour this afternoon. Would that work?
Ooh. That'd be really helpful. Dad's really struggling to grasp the reality that Mom's gone, and this is so difficult for me to watch. I've got my own breaking heart, and I've got to support Dad in his grief.
This is hard, Steve. I wonder, would it be okay if I arranged for someone to visit your dad every day for the next few weeks? Because they could bring a meal and eat with him, or take him on errands, or just sit and listen to him talk about memories of his wife.
You seem to know just what I need, Karen. Thanks so much.
Well, that's kind of more what your dad needs. I'm thinking about you. Would you mind if we called and checked in just to see what your needs are going to be over the next weeks?
Oh, I'd like that.
I'm so glad you're open to that, because someone from the church is going to be able to touch base with you. What's the best time to call?
Oh, I don't know. Things are really busy right now and really hectic with family coming in and all.
Understandable. So how about if we just reach out, and if it's not a good time, you can let us know. The really important thing is, Steve, is that we want you and Dad and your dad to know that you are supported right now. Would it be okay if I pray for you?
Oh, thank you.
Did we make any improvement? So in just a little bit, we've been a little bit of a role model for something that's had very little conversations about. When do we have conversations like this, right? Well, as we wrap things up, I want us to think about being this grove of a mighty oak tree. That we want to spread out our branches of compassion and care. Come on up, ladies. We want to be need-supplying, and we want to comfort and support and be emotionally safe at this community. Wouldn't that be a good idea? That we would be known here in Auburn as that's the church that you can go to when you're really hurting. It seems to me that as that continues to grow for our church, we will be living out the mission of Jesus.